All right, ready when you are. All right. Call this meeting to order. This meeting is a meeting of the Board of Education in public for the purpose of conducting the school district's business and is not to be considered a public community meeting. FLSD policy 0165.1. All right. Stand for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Do I have a volunteer to read our new mission and vision?
Our mission is to foster a community of learning and belonging. Our vision is to be a learning community centered on strengths and possibilities, to empower our students and staff to think critically, grow intellectually, and live with integrity.
Thank you. All right, moving on to item 3. Do I have a motion for additions to and approval of the agenda?
So moved.
I'll second. Do we have any additions or edits to the agenda?
I meant to ask you before the meeting, but the policy that we passed last month, is it okay if we add a first reading of that policy with the changed language to this agenda?
Do we have it?
It would have to be, we could literally take it out of the minutes and I could hand it to Dave. It would be the same policy, but it would read formal complaint in that one spot instead of just complaint, as we discussed last month. Is that okay if we add that as the first reading?
Yeah, do I need to have like a vote on that, or is it okay to say yes?
It's just part of what we're doing right
Okay.
now, making a change to the agenda.
So we would add that in as,
I should have asked you before the meeting, I apologize.
let's add it in as 12. Okay. Any other additions or adjustments?
Yeah, under acceptance of donations, there's a typo in the second bullet. It says 17999.43. I think there should be a 9.
Oh yeah, I think that's too many nines. I don't think we got 17,000.
Or the comma's in the wrong spot. One of those two.
And then just adding the minutes for item number 4. I think it was just the August 20 meeting. I didn't see any others. Is that right, Derek?
Right.
Okay.
I requested a communication about the update with the new band and orchestra schedule about the FE.
Yeah, that was actually in our board update.
And I'm gonna
So
share it during my
yeah.
administrative report.
Okay.
I didn't see it there. Okay.
Cool. Anything else? All right. All those in favor of the additions to and the agenda as it is, please indicate with aye. Aye. Item passes. Moving on to item 4, approval of the minutes from August 20th, regular meeting. I did have one, oh, I need a motion, sorry.
So moved.
A second.
Thank you. I did have one request to change the very end of it. It says that the motion passed, president declared motion pass, and I wasn't there, so that wording needed to change.
Okay, thank you.
Did anyone else have anything else to discuss? All right, easy. All those in favor of approving the minutes from August 20th, please indicate with aye. Aye. Item passes. All right, item 5, administrative report.
All right, I'm gonna start and invite Scott up so we can share a little bit about our conversation first with Seth and Jalecia, and then when him and I just met, and a recommendation we have for the board.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Okay. So I think we have had some ongoing conversation about beyond differences. And if you kind of want to share what you've accomplished so far and the work that you've done and kind of your understanding of the scope and kind of what brought us to where you and I met in our conversation?
Sure.
Rebecca?
Yeah, so we started about 1.5 years ago, once the committee was created. Kelly Lynch and I really, as co-chairs of the committee, really just saw ourselves as facilitators, not really leaders of it, but trying to reach out to all the different communities within Finneytown and just to sort of get their input, get their ideas, and then be able to pass that along to the board, the administration. So the first thing we did was a survey. We got a lot of good data from that. One of the main things that came out of that survey was when it came to all the issues related to diversity, equity, and inclusion, the responses were overwhelmingly positive, especially when you compared marginalized populations to the non. So for us, we felt that was a very encouraging sign. We started having meetings last year, so we've had a full year of meetings. We've had okay attendance. We've usually had maybe on average 4 or 5 other participants at those meetings. We've had a lot of really good discussions. It's been really great just to have Seth and Jalicia at those meetings. A lot of the parents that come are really excited just to have the administrators there. We have a couple teachers, a couple high school teachers that have been coming to the meetings. The last one we had a good discussion on just the clubs at the high school, what's offered, and so it's been a lot of good conversation. We started to decide about events this year. We had hoped to plan 3 different events. Unfortunately, like a lot of other groups, what we sort of found out was that we did have a lot of interest in the survey. We had over 300 people take that. We have almost 100 people on our mailing list. But when it comes time for meetings, they're not very well attended. I reached out over the summer to see if anybody wanted to help lead any of the 3 events, and we didn't really get feedback from anybody willing to lead an event. So I feel like we're just sort of at the point now where we've done the survey, but sort of where do we go from here? How can the handful, the 5 or 10 people that are coming to meetings and are really invested, how can they be most efficient? So I was sort of curious, just from the board's perspective, what you think of what we've done up until this point. And then we met, the 4 of us, and the idea came about to sort of merge Beyond Difference into different aspects of the school, which I think, like I said at that meeting, it's not up to me, it's not up to our committee. We're happy to do whatever you guys all see fit for us. For me, I'm happy, diversity issues are something I'm passionate about. And happy to help wherever you guys see fit. You guys all know better than I. But then listening to Dr. Banks' proposal about how we could be sort of integrated into the key communicator groups and the Pro Action Cafe. The Pro Action Cafe has always been something that I just think, just sort of highlights the district. The fact that we can have these events where anybody can come in, share their views, their ideas, ways that we can progress, and have teachers, board members, administrators all in that room. So we always sort of felt like our mission aligned with the goal of the Pro Action Cafe. And then with the key communicator group, just a way for for the community members that want to be involved to be more directly involved with the administration. That was sort of one thing that came up. We're doing a tailgate in a couple weeks, but when we start to think about planning events in the school, it's sort of hard to do those events because we're going to have to get in touch, with everybody. We talked about a restorative practices event, but to have that direct communication as opposed to working sort of side by side sounded appealing to me. So, what you proposed, I felt, would be a good progression for this group. But again, I'm not on the board and not making any recommendations, but just wanted to sort of share where we're at as a committee. I feel like I said, we've had great discussion, but when it comes to actually having volunteers to lead events, I'm not so sure that we're going to be capable, to pull those off on a regular basis. But if we took like I said, the half dozen people that really wanting to be involved and be able to sort of weave us into some of the events that are done, with the school, I think that would be just a valuable use of our time. Like I said, we enjoy the discussions, but as far as what tangible has sort of come out of it up until this point, it's really just been the survey.
And the connections, for sure.
For sure,
Yeah.
Definitely, yeah. I mean, just sort of include that with the conversations that we have, just meeting each other, and so yeah, I think that's about where we're at this point.
So when Scott, I'll just add, when Scott and I met, first with Jaleesa and Seth, like we had a conversation about particularly the purpose. And when I read and when we looked at the purpose for the committee, it aligns pretty succinctly with the purpose of our Pro-Action Cafes. And so we started talking about, one of the things we talk about is we have a lot of people who want to be involved, but it's kind of like we're competing for the involvement. So how do we bring our work together and create the opportunity for that involvement, maybe in a more concentrated way versus as dispersed sometimes as it feels. So that was one thing I think we talked about. And then when Scott and I met, I had shared with him the Key Communicator Group, which only met twice last year. We had our first meeting this year. And we talked about that work too, because one of the things we know is we need to use our social networks to get accurate information into our community to the people who support the district. And we talked about between the connections that have already been built between Beyond Differences and the work being done between the Key Communicator and Pro-Action Cafes, let's bring that together. So that was part of our conversation, and you can see kind of the thoughts and what went into kind of our thinking, along with the opportunities that are left throughout the school year this year for not only the Pro-Action Cafes, but the Key Communicator dates and the frequency. So I think in terms of the cadence of that, I think that would be good momentum. So, and then we did talk about taking the initial survey that Beyond Differences did and then looking at it based on our strategic plan and co-creating a survey that we can give to our community that's maybe 10 questions, so we get that response rate, but what are the 10 questions that have meaning to us that we want to ask? And so we talked about that being something maybe separate that Scott and I and maybe a few other people work on developing with the hopes of giving that on an annual basis. So yeah, that's kind of where we're at. It is on the agenda, and the board can choose to move forward with that or not, but to dissolve, because the board committee would require being dissolved. And I think if not, through our conversation, then what, I won't speak for, well, Scott shared this with me, so I'll say it right here if you disagree. But then it's just a better understanding of what's next then for Beyond Differences if it continues to exist. So that's kind of been what led us here in front of the board to share kind of our thoughts. So.
Yeah, I agree. The conversations that we had were meaningful. I think we gathered a lot of information, but I don't feel like the committee was growing in any way. It was kind of the same people attending, and we just couldn't really get in the groove of having a committee because some people would come, some people wouldn't. So I just think at this point, I think we've got a lot of information, and we can just take that and use that going forward. But I don't at this point feel like we need the committee.
Yeah, sort of like you said too about just how all the committees are spread thin. I know I was the chair of the nominating committee for the secondary PTA. At the same time I was on here, so it's like the people I was asking, it's like, do I ask them for this or that? And I stepped down from the PTA to be on this, so it definitely does sort of spread everybody out. So I think more concentrated and sort of, just taking the momentum we have and the people that want to be involved, even if it's not necessarily meetings, I see it potentially just sort of slowly fizzling a little bit, whereas now if we could go, all right, now all we have this opportunity to sort of get them booked somewhere else, that they can, feel like their time is well spent as a volunteer. Like I said, we had great conversations, but from month to month, it was, different people. So as far as like, the
Continuity
PTA, when you
and-
have the same people there and you're planning certain events, it made it difficult.
I think another barrier is that we didn't really have anybody in administration at the meeting, so we got all this information, but we had nothing to do with the information. You know what I mean? Where would we take it? You know what I mean? How would we use it? So I think that was another thing that we struggled with.
So I think one of the things I've noticed over the last several years with the groups is they are very siloed and they work in a silo. And so what I see is really the big need is someone to help centralize it and organize collectively. An example is just for sports alone, there are 3 major events on the same night, and they've already said, well, we need to fix that. We have fundraisers going on at the same time, and then gaps. We need a way to centralize and communicate and organize that so we can spread it out evenly better. And I see that that's something that this group could help with, or Scott in what was Beyond Differences.
So you mean more like a district need as a whole?
Yeah, like the
or
key
so?
communicators, just being that centralized, concentrated point to help, hey, okay, here's the calendar, who has fundraisers coming up, maybe this right here doesn't make sense, things like that. And then the Pro Action Cafe, I love the Pro Action Cafe, I think it's amazing, but I tend to see a lot of people come in knowing that something needs work or knowing an idea, but not knowing how to implement or execute. And that may be something that I see as you can help facilitate conversations with the right people who, okay, well, I don't know how to do that, but you know what? I think you should go meet with this person to help continue the ideas out of the Pro Action Cafe.
I think another
So that's what
thing
I
we
see.
need to consider also is that Kelly Lynch resigned, so we need to
Yeah.
find a replacement if we were to continue it. So that would be another thing, an interview process for that.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's a
One
lot.
concern that I did have, and one of the reasons why I supported the creation of the committee, is just making sure that all members of our student population, that they're reflected, that at least to the degree that their parents want or relatives want to be involved in supporting our extracurricular programs, they are involved. I know one of the things that we talked about was making sure that our Nepali community is part of things, and I don't even have a great sense of, I'm not very culturally educated on the Nepali community, so that might be something that I know I would benefit from as a board member, is maybe more of an understanding of what our Nepali community here in Finneytown is like. But I know we're doing things to support our Nepali community, but I think I'd love to hear more about it. But I think we're already doing that. Yeah, that was one of the concerns that I had. And then the other thing is our volunteers, they're the same people. So we can't make people volunteer, but how do we have this? I think we've already had this conversation, but how do we have soft entry points for people to come in? And I think that you guys are doing a great job with the Pro Action Cafes and that as well. So I think just as long as everyone feels that they're welcome and included and their voices are heard, I think that's my main concern. And I think the assessment is that we're doing a good job on that.
And it sounds like we are based on the survey. I think that was the information that was gathered. I think maybe all of us initially maybe had some concerns, but just based on the survey, it seems like our students feel like they belong, they fit in, and those things are being addressed. I know that Tom Boudet has been there, Elijah Sanders, and it sounds like there's a lot of programs after school for students too, to kind of help fill those gaps. Yeah. So.
Yeah, I feel like the students, like I said with the survey, they feel safe and supported by their teachers, but certainly, like you said, there's still plenty of work that can be done to try to reach out to those communities. But even doing something like that, would most likely be easier to have not a separate side organization doing that. So to me, that would be a great initiative to do something like that through the Key Communicators group. And then, take some of the people from Beyond Differences that are maybe more, passionate or directed towards DEI issues, if there's specific things from that group that would entice, people that want to be a part of, the DEI issues to help out with those.
And I'll say one thing, another thing we could do, even if we dissolved it as a committee, we could still just have it as a casual committee and not a board subcommittee. And I know Scott had some really good ideas for that. We had a lot of different events planned. We could make it just a pop-in thing. I know, Scott, if you want to elaborate the idea that you had I thought it was a great idea.
Yeah, just at the end of the last meeting,
Yeah.
it was like, people that, just community members talking about the clubs. To me, it just seemed like, because for me, when I was leading meetings and we spoke about this, I like to really, stick to the agenda and all that. But what I found, especially at that last meeting where we didn't really have a whole lot to discuss other than the tailgate, and just sort of let it go into a free conversation. And at the end, I was just like, well, we didn't always, exactly stick to the agenda, but it was a great discussion, So I thought, even if this, ends, we could have something just saying, at High Green, every, the first Thursday of the month, is open to any town community member, meet up there and have those same discussions. Because every time you go, there were different people, some the same, but some different people that, especially the parents that were like, oh, great chance to talk to the teachers that are there, or the board members, and even just between parents, So something like that would be more informal. It wouldn't require, an agenda, but it would be a way to still invite people to have those conversations.
Then I think people would feel more comfortable to share more, and then you can learn more,
The committee going away, I don't, one way or the other is not. It's the intent of it, right? And it's the focus and what we wanted. And Scott, if you're willing to continue to be involved, and it sounds like you are, I think the intent and what we initially wanted will continue. So that's what's going to work. I want it to work. That's all. I want it to be there. So I appreciate the thought and everything that's gone into the changes. But again, just as long as the intent is there, right? And I think it is. So let's do whatever's the best way to do it. So.
I actually appreciate the time that you put in, the organization and the effort you put in, along with the other people that kept showing up. As it was shrinking, but at the same time, we had that core group, and I cannot thank Mr. Bidet enough for taking his time out after a busy day to help educate us on some stuff too. If it is going the way it is, I was not on the board that decided to put it together, and I'm saddened that we didn't find a way to keep us a good focus, because we have so many great ideas on that committee. So hopefully we're going to be proactive out there and the key communicators. Whatever committee we find, we're lucky to have you on. I know we're going to do great. I think we'll put the time that we put in for the young differences.
Sure, glad to.
Thank you, Scott.
Thank you. All right. Before I go to the facilities update, I did want to give just a brief overview of some progress already being made towards the work outlined in our strategic plan. And if you guys want to take one and pass them down, you can. And I'll send this out to you electronically. We did get the fall report cards released on Friday from the state. We got a 3-star rating, which meets standards. I will be doing a deeper dive and presenting that in October. But what I can tell you, just from we did dive deep into the literacy measure. 0.3 is what we missed this 2-star by, which is less than one student score. But again, that's just one of the challenges we have being a small district. One student does shift our measure pretty dramatically. But there will be more coming, some bright spots for sure, and then some areas obviously for growth. So we'll look at that in October. We've had 2 events so far for the Youth Advisory Council meeting. We have our 3rd this Wednesday, a longer period. The number of students involved in that has increased.
What do those meetings consist of? What do they do during those meetings?
So it depends, and I'm happy to share the agendas with you. The first 2 were pretty short. The first one was just a gathering in Mr. Bryness's room after school. One of the challenges we're having in gathering that group is extracurriculars after school. And then if we meet during school, the miss of instruction. So we're trying to balance that out. The second one we had was during the students' lunchtime, and so we have pizza, we brought them in. At that meeting, we went over our, we call them the nuggets, leadership nuggets that we went over last year for our new students who want to participate. And then on Wednesday, in that larger chunk of time, I know we're going to do a story harvest with the students who went to the leadership retreat in Michigan last year, so they can share their story, because our hope is we'll be able to send even more students to that opportunity this year, because the feedback from our students was overwhelmingly positive. And then one of the other things on there, we are still working with Interact for Health and Sandra George, because we're hoping that there's a possibility those funding dollars are going to be renewed or possibly expanded. And so one of the things I shared with you as just an indicator of our work is a publication that was made. And in that, there's an article about our partnership with them and the work we're doing with the Youth Advisory Council. Yeah, it's been positive, and the fact that we have more students wanting to be involved, we're hoping that grows.
How many?
I don't have initially I think our group was around 30 students. I can get you an updated roster, but it's quite a few. Last year was around 30. And that's representative of students 9 through 12th grade. And we are trying to get a diverse makeup of our house leadership, our athletics, and then our restorative peer mediators. Which leads into my next indicator. We have our next RPM retreat scheduled for November. The students will go to Camp Campbell Guard on our in-service day. I think it's the 15th and 16th. And so during that time, I think we are slotted to have 20 new students become peer mediators. And so they'll do that training. And we had, as Lindsay had mentioned, we had our first Pro Action Cafe last week. We had 17 participants and 4 topics that were hosted. Facility update I'll get to in just a second. The extended care, I wanted to share a little background to the board, since most of it was through board updates. But we had a resignation, and so it was an opportunity to reassess, were we going to try to hire, or were we going to try to move to a third-party provider? And as many of the board remember, over the summer, we had the conversation about, or in the spring, I think it was, what do we do with extended care? Because in terms of, particularly around their strategic plan, it was a program where we were losing money. And so we had made the decision that we were going to pivot, because through my conversations with Amy Dermott at the YMCA, they said, absolutely, we'll be able to partner with you. They were incredibly responsive. We were meeting within the week. And so they are currently going through the licensure program. They said that takes less than typically 20 to 30 days. So we have a site visit next Wednesday, and they'll come and they'll certify the spots within Finneytown Elementary. It will still occur at Finneytown Elementary. The hours will be the same. Any current extended care assistant who is interested in continuing the work, they will be able to apply, and will get preference in terms of, as long as they meet all the WISE criteria for employment, and continuing working with our students.
So would they be directly employed through the Y at this
They'd
point?
be employed by the Y. So it would be a different employer.
Okay.
Anybody who's currently enrolled in extended care, their registration fee is waived. And in addition, then their spot is held. So they're kind of guaranteed. Increasing enrollment will depend on once they get the program up and running, but their hope is to open it, because one of the benefits of partnering with the Y is we will be able to accept vouchers, which will allow more of our families to access it. And Ms. McNair is already working with them on what that process looks like, and some of our families in terms of applying for those. The Y, Missy Wash is our, I think they call it community coordinator, our primary contact beyond Amy, and she's been incredibly responsive for any emails we've gotten from families. So yeah, just kind of an update on that and why that decision was made.
Could I ask, with the vouchers, does that mean that if they're under a certain income threshold, it would be reduced price or paid for completely? Is that through the Ed Choice?
No,
Or
it's totally separate.
different
It's
type of
through
voucher?
family services. It's through a whole different
Okay,
department.
so you'd have to be pretty low income in order to qualify for that, probably.
Necessarily,
Well-
mostly.
It is the
Is it
county, it's a
measured by
county
poverty
requirement. It's a
level?
county requirement.
Yeah.
So it's a certain
It's-
threshold of the poverty level?
It's a certain number of
It's an
kids or how much
income,
you.
yeah.
Yeah,
so-
okay. So it's not as generous as the statewide Ed Choice program. It's based on.
Well, the
Well,
state
it doesn't
the
exist.
voucher program is anybody
No,
qualifies
I'm just
now.
understanding what a voucher is.
Yeah,
So it's a
yeah.
different type of vouchers.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Not the
so
same
it's
thing.
separate administration.
It would be closer aligned to students that are eligible for free and reduced
Yeah.
lunches.
Yeah.
Which
based
we have
on-
70% of our
Yeah.
students who are currently eligible for free and reduced lunch.
So what would the price increase for those that don't qualify for the program be necessarily? And then the other, I have one other thing. How many students have we had, like, average in our extended care program?
So by ratio, I think right now we currently, and don't hold me to this because I don't have it in front of me, I believe we have 54 students enrolled. We can have, I believe, one adult to 18 students. And so now in that, because we've been, since we don't have a coordinator currently, myself, Ms. Baker, Ms. Martin, have been working on the coverage to provide support to our extended care workers during those periods of time. We typically, attendance can be anywhere from 10 students to, I think the most I've seen is probably closer to mid-20s to close to 30. So we're usually not at capacity, which was one of our challenges because people pay as they need it. And so, but we're staffing like it is at capacity. And so the model we were using just was kind of set up, and we haven't really been self-sustaining since before COVID. So
Comparing the cost is going, for the families, is going to be apples to oranges because some families may have only used it once every other week versus others using it every single day. Some families, it may go down.
Would there be
Other
an
families, it
option
may
to
go
pay for
up.
1 day a week? Or
Not
would it be
anymore, is there?
There's an
have to be
option
full-time?
for 3 days or 2 days or less, or 3 days or more.
There's-
It's at the 3 day, but I don't remember which way
they
the day
have
3 went.
multiple payment options. You do not have to get 5 days, morning and afternoon. You can get only AM, only PM. You can get a few days a week.
Okay.
I think
Just
it's a
not as
minimum of
flexible,
3.
Yeah.
That's the reason, I was just asking because I had a parent ask me a question
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I think this
Yeah.
dialogue would be useful for them to hear, so.
The Y has agreed. They plan to, we're going to coordinate a information night at FE. So if families want to come and find out more information, they'll be able to. They've been incredibly open to whatever we need from them. So
And the information did go out to families already. I know I got something and I'm not even
it
enrolled.
currently went out to extended care families only.
Yes, extended care families.
And then when we're able to expand the program, we'll send something out to the district wide. Right now, we're just not in the space to expand it. So we're holding.
And we don't know how many will continue versus
Correct.
not.
So.
And since we're on this topic, have we been able to figure out what we're going to do as far as a program for winter break?
So I've been in contact with Springfield Township, Kim Flam, as well as Amy German. We're working with them, and Grant has been looking into the transportation possibility. So I don't have anything except to say we have multiple parties working on it.
It's coming,
So yeah,
okay.
we're hopeful we might be able to provide something.
If I understand too correctly, that Ms. Baker's taking the lead on talking with the YMCA and coordinate all this too.
Yes.
Right, so at least we appreciate all the work that she can put on to put this together.
Yeah, it's been great. Like honestly, it's gone as I think as knock on wood seamless as it could have, and we're working through the challenges as they come up. But really, for the most part, I feel like our families still feel cared for. We've got a good solution that doesn't disrupt what they've had already because it's on site, same hours and things like that. So
And Amy's pretty fantastic
She is
at the Y.
fantastic,
So
yes.
her heart's in the right place, and I know she'll be working to do as fantastic a job as they can. So
Yeah.
Is Amy the family editor?
Amy's the director.
Oh, the executive
She's
director.
the executive director of the Y, yeah.
okay, I have a few more real quick. Social media, we just started Wildcat Connection. It's just a cute little thing. There's more coming. So I just watched the Bengals social media reel. We take that idea and then we try to go do it with our staff. So more to come on that. We did also meet with Head Start programming. Anybody who knows a family in our community with a child who's birth to age 5, we do have Head Start programming. We're going to start passing out that information at enrollment to our families. Head Start's trying to grow their program, particularly for our Finneytown. They have in-home programming, and then they have on-site at Assumption where our preschool is held. And so that again, there's multiple qualifications to be eligible, but it is high-quality preschool programming and high-quality birth to 3 development. So if families have questions about that, they can reach out and we can share their flyer and connect them to that resource. So just gets our kiddos better ready to go. Staff learning did kick off. We had our first session at Finneytown Elementary and Finneytown Secondary campus last week. The focus on week 1 was facilitation. So teachers as facilitators, administrators as facilitators, whatever role we play and what that looks like in the classroom or the spaces we're in. That will continue to evolve as we go forward, and I'll share those updates with you guys. Both were incredibly well attended. And then Business Advisory Council and our Career Connector, that was our kickoff. Hamilton County ESC is our partner in that. And Fred Andrews, who is our new Oaks person, he is our Career Connector, and his primary function in that role is to work with community partners as well as the ESC to develop possible future job pathways for our students.
So is that different from Mike Grody's position?
So Mike Brody also attends, but he's not our Career Connector. Fred's serving in that role. So Mike Brody also goes to the Business Advisory Council, and then instead of Grant this year, it's going to be Mr. Walker is the administrator who attends those. So those are the 3 individuals who will be representing Finneytown in those conversations. And then just real quick, safety update, just because I know, unfortunately, we've had, a school shooting several weeks ago, and then just with a lot of the social media that a lot of other districts have gone through. I just kind of wanted to share again publicly that Grant leads our safety teams, but they meet regularly. We monitor, we have people we bring together whenever we have to respond to anything or be aware of anything. We will continue to provide updates. One of the things we recognize is it's a fine line of over-communicating and under-communicating because we don't want to incite panic or worry, but at the same time we want people to know we're aware and that we are on alert. So I encourage 2 things. If you see something, say something, because that is probably one of our best resources in ensuring safety. And then the other thing for us internally is to build relationships with our students and staff, because that keeps people hopefully well and feeling like they're a part of something. So. And then last but not least, facilities. I don't have a ton to update on this. We will be likely needing to schedule a special board meeting in the next 2 weeks because we are going to need board approval for our GMP 1. I'm going to pretend I know what that is and explain it, and then Grant or Dave can add if I get it wrong, or Anita. But basically, there is some bidding that we need to do that on items that are long lead time, including our HVAC and things like that. That is a package that we need the board approval on. And so to get that moving. And then hopefully quickly following will be GMP 2, which will be the second piece of the bidding. Grant, did you have anything else you wanted to add?
No, GMP 1 is mostly electric panels, which are okay. HVAC lead times are okay right now. They've been improving. So GMP 2 is the bulk of the building, and that will be coming sometime late October. So nothing to really worry about. And then HVAC project starts over the next couple weeks at secondary campus. That's the replacement of the HVAC in the gym. So that brings AC into the gym at secondary campus, and one that we're keeping, and replaces the 100 building units.
What is the lead time for electric panels?
I don't know the weeks. We're in an okay place right now. As long as there's a reason why it's broken out.
You're speaking SAS level language right now.
Yeah, the electrician is concerned.
The supply chain managers over here like, ooh, timing. Okay.
All right, and you said you had a band update.
Oh, yes, thank you. So we did, I gotta get to it. We met with the band department last week,
And yeah, and band and orchestra.
band and orchestra. And we went over what they are currently seeing. And so one of the things they've noticed is in sixth grade band right now, we have 54 students. In sixth grade orchestra, we have 29, which those are occurring once a week during the school day. And then our fifth grade band is at 63, and our fifth grade orchestra is at 24.
How does that compare to what they estimated?
Well, they estimated all students were going to participate, but what they've noticed is, and what we think, they're making intentional efforts to contact the families that they thought were going to be involved that aren't. But what we're thinking is people didn't, the 5 days a week before school possibly was not. They do give positive feedback, particularly around the frequency of the fifth grade and the amount of growth they've seen already in that fifth grade group. So we had said we have 3 additional dates on the calendar to reconvene, and so we're going to continue because one of the things we're going to measure is the retention of the people who started day one as we move forward. We've talked about, they have kind of in their mind a threshold that they'd like to see continued to have a full band and a full orchestra at the high school level. One of the things they talked about is this possibly being a core group that is a core group that will stay because they're invested. We talked about coming up with a pathway for new enrollments, because how do we get new enrollments involved, particularly if they're a sixth grader? Do we have them start with fifth grade? Next year, do we consider fifth and sixth grade together before school? I think they're seeing some benefits. They're seeing right now a lot of them in terms of the skill. So we're going to just continue to meet and monitor it. We have, I think any of the bus challenges we have been kind of worked through in terms of the arrival. Now all of that can change on or be any given day. Could be a challenge. But Grant, did you have anything else you can think of from our meeting with them?
Yeah, you hit all the good stuff
Okay.
and the things that we're still working through. But,
So how many fifth graders do we have? Not in the band, just total fifth graders.
Oh, I got that information too. Hold on, I got the info in here.
How do you?
Yeah.
That's a lot.
Fifth grade right now,
Did I do that?
first, second, third, fourth, fifth, 100 students exactly.
So we're at 87%.
We have more fifth grade band orchestra students than we have sixth grade?
Yes, and we tend to lose some from fifth to sixth.
Yeah.
So, and then
Big
to the
drops from
middle
6 to
school.
7.
They are consistent?
Yeah, they did share, that was an odd thing that came up in terms of retention. They mentioned how they were losing 10 to 15 kids a year, not because of them dropping out of band, but because they have left the district in terms of the transient population.
Yeah.
And so not from like going to a private school, but literally the family moves to another area of town.
So should we be looking at this in terms of percent of the population rather than whole numbers?
I don't think to extrapolate any one thing. I think looking at it holistically and understanding the limitations of any one number is probably a healthy thing, and then to listen to what the directors are saying to, sharing. Because I think it's like any other program, having enough numbers later is important.
So the directors are happy right now?
Right now they're happy.
Okay.
Yes.
And they're seeing consistently 87 fifth graders?
They said the attendance is consistent.
I will say that my fifth grader is thrilled. I haven't had an issue getting her out the door a single time. In fact, she yells if she's even close to late.
They said the students that are showing up consistently.
That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they're still working through, again, some kids that maybe have struggled or parents didn't understand certain things, like they've been working through all that. So, I mean, I think attendance has gotten better. And but that is one of those things we're going to continue to monitor, just to make sure that we don't, I mean, just for our directors are watching it. You know, we want to make sure kids are participating, because it's hard to have, you know, a band later, in their career if we don't have numbers now.
Yeah. So, thank you for sharing that information.
Yep, you're welcome. Okay. Do you have anything else?
I don't think so.
Okay, moving on to public address. Did we have anyone who wanted to speak to the board? So no?
No.
Okay. All right, easy enough. Item 7, review of action steps from last month. So number 1 was gather information for the comparison and review of the COG substitute rates. I saw that, right?
Yeah.
Review the board handbook and propose recommendations for update. I know
Seth and I are going to meet on
Yeah.
Thursday to do that.
Yeah, perfect. Contact the boosters concerning a date Finneytown Board of Education can volunteer to run the concessions. I did this and they have recommended homecoming, which actually may be a really good opportunity since I think most of us were already looking at that date to be there anyways. That is the 27th.
That's a Friday.
Yes.
I won't be able to make that.
Okay.
And I typically volunteer for the band, but I have signed myself for concessions at soccer games and
Okay.
some other places. But I will slide in like I did last 2 games.
All
if
right.
they need to.
Great.
I'm able to come after Finley's hockey practice.
Okay.
So I might be able to make it for some.
Okay. Anyone else available?
I'll volunteer at a different date, possibly.
Okay.
It just, yeah.
All right, cool. Thank you. They will appreciate that.
Can I ask a quick question about the sub rates? Just to go back to that, we can hold that quickly. Jamie, I know you mentioned that you were a little concerned about some of the sub rates. Do you think that's something we need to have further conversation about, or?
I always think it's something we have to look at. I haven't had a chance to dig deep.
I'd be willing to have more conversation about that at some point.
Let's do it.
But I think Laura would need to be involved, of course. But
Can we add that to the finance committee meeting that's also on here? Does that work?
Is that appropriate for the finance committee, or is that?
What do you think?
Or is that more of a personnel
It could also be
committee?
personnel,
sounds
probably
like
personnel.
Personnel?
I'm thinking personnel.
Okay,
not many
personnel.
people work because I won't be at those meetings, but I definitely would like to.
All right,
I think
personnel.
we all
committee.
agree with that.
Okay.
Okay, send out the administrative guidelines regarding the amended communication policy. Is that done? And then the finance committee will meet and recommend the targets for budgeting by November. How are we looking on that?
Should I schedule a meeting?
Yeah, can we schedule a meeting?
Who is on the, is it?
It's me
You
and
two?
Seth.
Okay, you guys want to do that right now?
Or you could do it.
We can do it offline.
Okay.
If it's not
Thank
till
you.
November, we want to get it done.
I want to, I would rather get it done sooner rather than later because it's harder to adjust your budget and actually have an impact the longer we go. So, I think that was it. Anything else? Okay. Moving on to board coordination matters. Would anybody like to go first?
Okay, go
Are you
ahead.
going?
No?
Go for it, Jamie.
All right. Just really quickly, I want to thank everyone that was involved in the strategic plan. I love the fact that we did it. The first 2 years being on the board and never really referring back to the strategic plan kind of got to me a little bit, but now that we have one that this board was part of developing and it's our marching orders going forward, it's how we should be evaluated. I think, Laura, you have a good sense now of what is expected, right? And it wasn't just us, it was community involvement, it was staff, it was a lot. I'm really, really proud of the work that was put into it. And I honestly think it's what we need to be focusing on. So I look forward to all of us getting our role and how does it impact the strategic plan? How does it affect the strategic plan? How does it, because that's what we think is best for the students, so, and the district. I'm just very proud of the work that was done. I did minimal on it, right? I showed up to a couple of meetings, and then we were just in discussions towards the end on the finer points of it, but I appreciate everyone that was involved in it, the consultants, even though they got paid, right? They were doing it for work, but I think a great job was done, and I'm looking forward to working towards it and meeting the goals that we set in it. So that's it for me.
Okay. Cool.
Okay. All right. Let me go back to the notes. So FMPA, I was not able to attend the meeting this month, but I do have some highlights from the notes. They have a homecoming game, of course, coming up. They need volunteers for concessions, the tailgate, and future concerts. So if you're interested, please reach out to April Bruder. It sounds like students are off to a great start and progressing every day. I heard there's about 600 students that are signed up for music currently, so that's awesome. Voices auditions are taking place on October 1st and October 2nd. It's going to be before school from 8 to 8:40 in the music room, and that's encouraged for students 2nd through 6th grade. So the next FMPA meeting will take place on October 14th at 7 o'clock. Secondary PTA, I did attend that. They're having a Mike's Car Wash fundraiser, which they make great stocking stuffers. So if you're interested in Mike's Car Wash, you can take part in that fundraiser. Also, they're giving out about 3 $700 scholarships this year. So if you're interested in that, you can apply through Miriam Schmidt-Gesseling, and she can get you set up for that, which I thought was fantastic. They have an executive breakfast on September 18th. I don't know if you were attending that, Laurie, at 11:30.
We have the yak during that time,
Okay.
so I committed to that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Their next meeting is on September 24th at 7. Also, don't forget to vote for your favorite pet for the mayor of Finneytown. I just wanted to also say that I've heard a lot of great feedback on the policy for the cell phone policy. I've heard a lot of staff members and parents and just people saying that students are more engaged since that policy is passed, so that's exciting. Do you guys have a date set for when you're going to start revising that policy that we can put into place? I know we have like a year to kind of get things in order, but
I mean, the secondary campus, it's already in their handbook, and so
Yeah.
they're kind of test piloting it, so we would probably bring it in the spring.
Okay.
Because then we'll have the full year to look back on. And then in terms of the elementary, I mean, the issues are different between the campuses, but we want to get consistency. So there'll be some conversation between FE and FSC and what that looks like, the final version of it. So
Is that something that the board would have a seat at the table with revising that policy, or?
yes, because,
Okay.
I mean, ultimately,
Yeah.
yes.
I hadn't heard anything, so I thought I'd ask. Let's see. Yeah, that's it. I was going to also ask about badges. Sometimes I think we may need a little bit more access because there's times we're having meetings and we can't get in the building as board members. Could we have more access with our badges and not just 4 to 8? Because, I mean, sometimes meetings go after. There may be an emergency. We may need to get in. Is that a possibility?
Yeah, I'll just work with Latour and Grant.
Thank you. Anything else?
That's it.
You want to go ahead?
I have an event.
Okay. Seth?
I had the opportunity to go to the elementary school PTA, and Jude Lee's here, thank you for the help with the secondary. And they are going to have fundraisers every second Monday of the month at Skyline for to time to donate. They are still coordinating with their volunteers, so if you are looking to help with the carnival, please get involved with that. And they're just trying to make sure that everything else is getting together. Oh, dance registration is open till the end of September as well. So if your child is interested in participating in dance, the registration is still going on.
My daughter's participating. She's excited.
Please?
My daughter's participating.
It's a
She's
great
excited.
program.
Yes. And yeah, it's been going on for a long time, and they do a great job.
When's the carnival?
The carnival is, they're looking into April, May. It's not, no date is set yet, especially since they're looking for, well, leads. So, But they are still getting ready for the year, and then hopefully we'll have a calendar, official calendar out coming soon. The alumni network, the FAN, it's weird that I'm going to say, hey, head to High Grain, but we do have, thanks to the FAN, we have our own beer. So head to the coolers, it's sitting as a 6-pack, sitting right there. I've already grabbed 2 myself.
Nice.
Very tasty. I'm not much of a drinker, but I was enjoying it. If you are interested in being part of if you are alumni and interested in just helping out with what the alumni is trying to do, go to finneytownalumni.org. With that too, I want to say thank you to the admin team and also to the FAN for a great groundbreaking ceremony. And they had the FAN had a whole weekend together. They had a golf outing that went spectacularly, especially for the first one, and they inducted the 1974 soccer team, the state champion soccer team, and unfortunately I forgot the young lady's name that the other inductee. I should have wrote that down. I apologize for my disorganization, but the alumni that went well, and also the meeting afterwards at High Grain to induct the JC room at High Grain, or the John Coleman room, I remember that name. That went spectacularly, so much so that thankfully the fire department didn't come and shut us down that room itself. With that, I believe I'm done.
Okay, thank you. If you just get me the date for the carnival, once you have it, I'll put it in the calendar.
Don't do the dunk tank. It's cold.
Ironically, I wrote down for dunk tank.
Yes, it's
as an
cold.
idea.
Been there, done that.
Yeah, it is. All right, so for me, don't forget to do your trainings that are legally required. Grant will send you a note if you forget, like I have. OSBA Capital Conference is November 10th through the 12th. I didn't know, is the admin going as well on Monday? I know we usually do a dinner on Monday nights, right?
Yes.
Okay.
And so if I know who's all born, I'll get us reservations.
I'm attending for the first time. I'll be there for the
Okay.
whole thing.
Okay.
I will be there Sunday and Monday.
Are you staying Monday night?
I'm not staying Monday night, but I'll stay for dinner and then
Okay.
leave.
You're going?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know yet.
You're not sure?
Yep.
I won't be attending this year,
Okay.
I just went in May.
Okay.
And then if you are going,
Monday night, yeah.
yeah, if you are going Sunday night, they do a Black Caucus dinner. I highly recommend going. It is usually a very motivational, encouraging night. You hear about a lot of different issues different districts are facing. It's very wonderfully done. And then I did receive the official business email from OSBA, so I will review it, and probably the next meeting in my coordination, I'll talk about some of the things that they have coming up if I have any questions that we want to look at as a district. I went to Boosters. They are still looking for a secretary, if anybody is interested in volunteering. And then they added on, they gave me the dates for the soccer senior nights, which are not part of the main senior night that's going on. However, it's also on October 10th, which is the day that everything seems to be falling on for sports. So they're working to maybe adjust some of those dates because it's gonna be really hard for everybody.
So October 10th is the boys and girls?
Boys soccer, girls soccer, and Volley for the Cure. Oh, and parent-teacher conferences. Do you see the problem?
Well, I was planning to say that, I thought.
So,
You need a golf cart.
yeah. So they're looking into that because they said that's kind of a problem. Yeah, so that was Boosters. They said that they are having a really positive year as far as the concession stand with help because they now have incentives for teams that if they help with them, they get some additional funds, and that has made a huge difference. So that's really nice to hear, and I'm glad to see the team stepping up for that reason. What else?
And then we just have to spend the money if they get.
Yeah.
It's mostly what's good.
I did talk to OSBA about the official legal policies and processes for hiring a treasurer. It's just following our own policy. So I was reviewing our policy. The language is lengthy, but a lot of it is you may do this, you may do that. we might want to put together some sort of committee to decide what our process is going to look like. I don't know how everyone else feels about having a little committee for that.
Yeah, I think that'd be great.
Okay. Is anybody interested in being on that?
I am.
Cool. Got it. Easy enough. So I'm going to put that on your guys' list. All right. The policy is on the, well, where all of our policies are, so I will let you guys look at that. I'm going to work with Lori. One of the things that I think I have kind of done not so great of a job at is I've been meeting with Lori regularly, but I want to make sure I'm communicating out to you all what we talk about. So I'm going to try to go forward with, on Mondays, I'll kind of put together a summary of what we talked about, any points that you need to know to make sure that you guys are in the loop on that.
Appreciate it.
You are very welcome. And then, since we have mostly finished the evaluations for last year, I think it would really benefit us and future boards if we kind of document what the process looks like for the evaluations, what the formatting should be, timing, who, and all of that. The policy is kind of vague. It doesn't really say a whole lot. We may need to update the policy a bit, but having a rubric that's standard that we can be consistent with would really benefit everybody. And it didn't exist. I think we felt the same when we came in. It's like, okay, well, how do we do this? Is anybody interested in doing that?
On that, I'd recommend that it be, Jalecia and Lindsay, I think it should be the president and the vice president that set the tone for that and come up with the schedule and how it's done.
And I do think that Laurie and Dave should probably provide input on that as well. Okay. Do you agree?
Oh, yeah.
I don't want to give work to people, but.
Okay. All right, other than that, the groundbreaking was really awesome. I thought it had great attendance, great videos for the virtual. It was really nicely done. I went to Pro Action Cafe. There were some really good discussions, and one in particular about the walkers group and making sure that we keep them safe. So there are some follow-ups from that I will talk with you on about how we delegate that. And then, like Jalecia said, everyone has been very positive so far, at least at the secondary campus, about how the school year is going. I hope that we're seeing that across the board.
We have a teacher.
Yeah, she's nodding at me, so that makes me feel really good about that. I'm very pleased to hear all that. So that's my board coordination, and I know the other responsibility is to go over the calendar. So for September, we have the parade on September 26th. Thank you, Jalecia, for getting us a truck.
Yes.
Very, very helpful. What time are we supposed to be there for that?
5:15, I believe.
Yeah.
5:15?
Remember, they shut this neighborhood down.
Quickly. Yeah.
I walk there, so. Homecoming is the day after. I will be working the concessions, and hopefully I can have you guys join me, and you'll sign up for another day. October 10th is the night of everything. Volley for the Cure, soccer senior night. October 11th is the fall senior night for, it was 3 sports. I want to say golf, football, and cross country, yes.
What day was that again?
The 11th.
The 11th, October 11th. October 25th is the social for grades 4 through 6. November 7th is going to be the winter sports kickoff. I added that one to the calendar just in the last week.
What day?
November 7th. And then we have the Capitol Conference, and then the next Pro Action Cafe is on the 18th, November 18th, 4 to 6 p.m. All of this is in the calendar. If you need the link, let me know. We added a lot on there, so I've started to highlight the ones that are really critical for board members to go to versus the ones that are really nice just to go to that are more fun, so that we can prioritize a little bit about where our attendance is important.
Can you send that link? I appreciate
Yeah,
that.
sure.
I'm still trying to make, for my organization, every step forward I make, I take a step backwards.
I understand. And that's everything I had. Okay. Anything else? Okay. All right. Moving on to item 9, financial matters. Do I have a motion to adopt the consent calendar?
I'll motion.
A second.
All right, Mr. Oliverio?
Okay, 9.1A, the monthly financial report. So referring to that, we had revenues in the month of August of $1,909,912. Fiscal year to date, revenues in the general fund, $7,024,241. In August, we spent $1,601,509. And fiscal year to date expenditures $3,702,425. The ending cash balance was $17,310,080 in the general fund at the end of August. Item B, depository and investment balances as of August 31st, 2024. U.S. Bank, $1,439,068. U.S. Bank Construction Fund, $2,852,352. Star Ohio, $28,082,449. Star Ohio Construction number 2, $3,198,180. Star Ohio Construction number 1, $2,036,760. And Star Ohio State Share, $2,285,828. Item C, interest earned on depository investment accounts for August. General fund interest income was $128,350. And for our construction fund, $24,088.
Dave, just a real quick question on that.
Yes.
Is that free for us to spend whatever way we want, or does the construction have to stay with construction? And is there any limits on?
So the construction money I do post to the construction fund, and the idea is, yes, that it would be spent on construction items.
Okay, and the general stuff is just into the budget, basically?
Right.
Okay.
So then, item D, according to that report, so this hasn't changed much since last month. We still really haven't gotten rolling on the secondary campus project, and so a little bit of expenditures, a little bit of additional interest income, but pretty much we stand where we did before. We have a total uncommitted balance currently of $31,295,000, and so we will be using that primarily for the secondary project. When we do the GMP, particularly GMP number 2, that's where we'll see the big dollars. Of course, that does include the state share. So that's not just our money, that's the state's money as well.
Will the state be a part of that GMP2 approval?
Yes. Then item E is a recommendation to approve the amended official certificate of estimated resources. That's also a report that's attached. This looks very similar to what was approved in July when we did the total amount. We made a few adjustments. There's always things that we find out about after day one, and so there are a few minor adjustments in here, but that is sent to the county auditor, and they use that for the next item, F, which is permanent appropriations. And so it's recommended the board approve this. General fund, $21,645,673. Actually, I'd like to pass these down. This is a little additional information about the budget. So again, about $21.6 million for the general fund, and in total, $43,400,000. So this document I passed out, I wanted you to see that we do have a 5-year forecast that sets targets for us. And so I compared that actually in the bottom half of this first page, where you can see that we've got proposed spending of, in total, $21.7 million. We had $22 million in the 5-year forecast. So we are a little bit lower than that, which is always good. If you look at the top half, you can see that proposed expenditures are greater than what we spent last year. That's not a surprise with inflation and us trying to do some new things. And so that budget's larger than it was, 7.45% on operating funds, which is, again, about what we were expecting. What I can say is that in this budget, we have absorbed some ESSER expenditures that we've been able to cover in years past, over the last 3 or 4 years. And so some of that money, some of that cost is now moved into our general fund. The salaries and fringe benefits are up. One of the things that Dr. Banks recommended was to hire some of our own staff that we've been purchasing from the Educational Service Center. Quality was an issue in that decision, so we have 2 new language and speech pathologists and a new psychologist that are on staff with us that will have more control over, certainly in the hiring and in the work that they do, so that's a change. It does reflect some contracts that we've got. Those are expensive. Insurance grew by 28% last year. That's something everybody's facing. We are seeing big increases in some of our other contracts. Not so much the percent. Generally, the percent's been like 4% or less, but there's such big contracts that it ends up being a lot of money from one year to the next. The second page, in case you're interested, I've got some information by department, so you can see some historical information here and what the growth is. So that's there. I also like always to keep in mind the next couple of pages. One is what our tax duplicate looks at, because really this is a measure of our district's wealth. And as we've already talked about, our assessed value did go up in the last year, so that's good. That adds to our capacity and will allow us to move forward to provide more resources for our students. I did highlight in yellow, you can see the next year that we're projecting. If you look at the next page, it's student enrollment. Again, I've got the 24-25 year highlighted. Essentially, we're down a little bit in total enrollment from last year. Slightly under 10 students, so that's where we are at this point. Obviously, that will continue to change as we go through the year. And then the next page is head count of our staff, and that does reflect, as I talked about, some of the purchase services that have been brought on staff, and some unfilled positions last year that Dr. Banks has worked very hard to fill, and so that's reflected, and she has had some success in filling some positions.
Can I ask you a silly question about the Board of Education? I was just wondering why the increase there,
Is that a strategic plan included in that, or is that under?
or is that just under attorney fees, or just things that we're asking for?
Laura, do you recall?
I'm just trying to pull it up.
If you need to get back to us.
Yeah, don't-
then it's-
Yeah, I can look into it and get back to you
Yeah,
guys.
it's not a rush.
Hey, Laura, or maybe Dave, the enrollment numbers, when were those pulled from? Because we're pretty much where we were last year at this point.
Well, this is only 7 or 8 off, so I pulled those from September, like 5th. So I do know that there is the increase in that for joining Dutchess for Ohio. That's one increase. I'm trying to remember what the other increase is.
Yeah, like Dr. Ohio was like a
That's
$2,500
about-
or $3,000
it's-
bucks. 250 a student?
It's like
or something?
$3,000. It's less than 3,000, like 2,600.
Can I ask a question about enrollment?
Yeah, sure.
So it looks like we're projected to have an increase in enrollment. What's that based on? If we look at 2024 to
Yeah.
starting 2028, it looks like an increase of 54. What is that as a formula?
That's my hopeful.
Okay. Well, you said that was.
Yeah, I guess, yeah, because Lori and I track that super closely, and I think I just pulled it literally a few minutes ago, and not all of these are, some of these are non-resident that attend our schools, but we are at 1,228. So I think just bear in mind that sometimes those numbers shift a little bit, like over time, and definitely like enrollment, it depends on which kids we're looking at, whether they are, we have different codes. If they live in our community, they're A. If they are a non-resident residing in Finneytown, like they're in foster care or some other situation living with grandma, that's an N code. And then we also have our JVS, our students that attend the Oaks, but they're still our students. So enrollment is one of those tricky things. So, but I know Dave looks at what ends up funding us, so we just full picture. They're showing like our enrollment is approximately where it was last year.
I would pull it every Monday if you ever want it. I try to include it in the board update.
And Dave, the optimism about enrollment, is that based on housing stock turnover or new buildings, combination of both?
Well, we do think that there is some opportunity for growth. We know that the township wants to develop some property into a residential neighborhood. We also are looking at the Whitaker development, that some students may come out of that. We think new buildings will contribute to that as well. I think that there's any reason not to expect some growth. And really, I like to think that we can get 100 kindergartners to enroll each year. I know that we haven't always gotten that, but that's my starting point.
Okay, yeah.
That's really where we want to see class sizes of 100.
Currently at 82, or no, yeah, 82.
Yeah. But then first grade's at
Yeah, I see what you
27.
did there. Okay.
Yeah.
I see what you did. Thank you.
Excuse me.
So we've talked about getting together as finance committee, and we'll go through this budget in a little bit more detail. We'll talk about targets that we've talked about setting for our 5-year forecast, and looking forward what kinds of things that we can expect. So then item G is a recommendation to approve payment procedures which authorize payment within appropriations. So it basically is a standard item that we do every month, and this allows us not to bring every check written to the board for individual approval. Item H is a recommendation to approve 2 purchases as listed. That's all I have. Any questions? Additional questions?
Lean Six Sigma and Leadership Excellence curriculum, is that for students or is that for our staff or?
For students, it's a industry credential they can earn
Yes.
for graduation at
Yes.
secondary, yeah.
I am very impressed to see that we're offering that. Yeah. Any questions, any other discussions? It was a lot, so I'll give you a minute. Okay. Mr. Oliverio, may I have a roll call vote?
Mrs. McMullen?
Yes.
Mr. Ray?
Yeah.
Mr. Reed? Yes. Ms. Lee?
Yes.
Mr. Plow?
Yes.
Item passes. All right. Do I have a motion for the consent calendar for the superintendent's recommendations?
So moved. I'll second.
All right.
All right, item A, Grant has worked really hard. We hired 2 new crossing guards. those are on there. Item B is supplemental pay for additional work done outside of the contract. Item C is the approval of our athletic and seasonal supplementals. Item D is our academic supplementals.
Can I ask about the academic supplementals? Are any of these new, or are these all supplementals we've always had?
These are all ones, to my knowledge, we've always had. Typically, if they're new, they would come through a conversation with either Dave or myself or the building administrators.
Got it.
Item E is approval of payment for mentors. Item F is approval of athletic support roles. That includes gate and site supervision. Okay, next item is certified for additional hours for the individuals listed there to help with the athletics department. Item H is our list of subs. Item I, our band is asking to go to Bands of America at Grand National again. This year, they are playing on, I believe, Friday evening at like 8 p.m. So, but that will be an overnight trip for them. Item J is our annual payment in lieu of transportation resolution, along with a list of families receiving that payment.
Can you remind me who qualifies for that again?
These are students that attend non-public schools but qualify for transportation. And so if I am not able to provide transportation, we can offer them payment in lieu of transporting them. So if it is deemed impractical, where some of the schools these students may be attending maybe 15 miles away from us, it does not make sense it's impractical to transport them often.
So it's any non-public school, so if, let's say a student attended a private school off in Claremont County,
Yeah.
then they would qualify, and what's the rate?
Yes. I think it's 593, 580.
Just a flat rate, it's not based on how far away they are?
It's, the state establishes a minimum payment that we may offer to families.
Even if they're 10 feet from a school or a district.
And the families have to apply for this?
They have to send notice that
Yes.
requesting
Request.
transportation, and then if we're unable to, we send them notification that we will do the
Interesting.
payment.
If they say yes, then they have to use the transportation that's offered, I suppose.
If we're able to
If
provide
we-
it.
Yes, and so that, like, so, for instance,
I remember we did this last
we paid
year.
for
Yeah, we did
JP2's
it
bus.
too. Yes, and Central Baptist and St.
I don't know if it matters, but it says brain sellers instead of Brian. I don't know if it matters on there, but
It won't, because we'll write the check
Yeah.
to Brian.
okay, it was no different than
Yeah.
earlier that someone else.
And there
asked.
may be, I think there may be one or two more that will trickling in, so I'll bring those to the next meeting. But my intent is to bring those each year so that it's clear who is still taking advantage of that. So.
Thank you.
Item K is approval, is recommended that the board approval, the authorization to Rick Seitz and John Candle Homes to apply for a zoning map amendment for preliminary development plan for Springfield Township zoning in the Township Board of Trustees. And item L, acceptance.
Can I ask about that? Sorry, this is not a commitment to anything.
Not at all, it's just zoning.
And did we ever have a statement about anything go out about this, or is this our statement so far?
Just that we're continuing to partner
Okay.
around possibilities with the township and conversations about what that could be.
So no decisions have been made?
No, nothing's been made, so, and this is simply for zoning, so no commitment
So if a resident wanted to hear about this, they could wait till it shows up on a zoning meeting, and then they could
Yes.
hear about it through that?
Correct. Item L, accepted of donations. We have a cash donation from the Finneytown High School Marching Band, or to the Finneytown High School Marching Band from the FMPA in the amount of $1,799.43. And cash donation from, on behalf of Jeff Emelt, from the FAN, the Finneytown Schools, the foundation actually, for $60,000 and that goes to our partnership with Allerton. We are grateful for that.
Yeah, very grateful.
Yeah.
That's big.
And then item M is the approval of yearly student tuition rate. This is the rate that a student would pay if they were attending here under some sort of agreement, or if they were attending here and not, and we found out they were not a resident here, we could charge them $7.65. That is the calculated rate to attend FinCom.
Okay. Any questions? All right, can I have a roll call vote? Please?
Mr. Ray?
Yeah.
Mr. Reed?
Yes.
Ms. Lee?
Yes.
Mr. Plow?
Yes.
Ms. McMullen?
Yes. Item passes. Okay, moving on to item 11. This is the approval to dissolve the board committee beyond differences. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
I'll second.
All right, does anyone want any further discussion? No? Sounds good. Can I have a roll call vote, please?
Mr. Reed?
Yes.
Ms. Lee?
Yes.
Mr. Plow?
Yes.
Ms. McMullen?
Yes.
Mr. Ray?
Yes.
Item passes. Thank you to the Beyond Differences Committee, Scott and Kelly both, for the work they did. Item 12 is the first reading of the amended policy.
Yeah, I don't necessarily need to read the entire thing. It's the policy as it read, as it currently reads. It's board policy PO 0148-1. The only difference is in the second to last sentence, where it says not discuss individual personalities, personnel concerns, student education records, or other complaints. My motion is to add, or have the word formal added between other and complaints.
Okay. Thank you for that. We will vote on that next month. All right, item 13 is the review of action steps. I wrote down, Personnel Committee is going to discuss substitute pay. Jamie and Jalecia will work together on deciding on the process for hiring a treasurer. And then me and Jalecia will work on documenting a process for the evaluations. I will send out the link to the calendar again so that we have it. And
Dave and I are going to attempt to meet Monday regarding his evaluation, or
Okay.
to finish his evaluation.
And then anything else did I miss? Did we need a special meeting set up?
As soon as I have information on when that's available, I'll send it to the
Okay.
board. And so we're thinking either next week or the following week, of the 23rd or the 30th is what we're hoping.
Okay.
Those are Monday.
Not necessarily on
Yeah.
those
The week
days,
of,
just in the
okay.
next
The
two. Yeah, just in the next 2 weeks.
Wednesdays and Fridays are bad for me.
Okay.
So.
And obviously the 26th is the parade.
And we're going to set a meeting with the financial committee.
Yeah, we have to.
Yes, that one's on here.
It's still there. It wasn't addressed, so it'll stay on.
Yep. I think that was it. Do we have anything else that we need to have a special meeting on this month in between? I don't think we did. Great. All right, if that's all, we'll move on to item 14, announcements. The next regular meeting of the Finneytown Board of Education will take place on Monday, October 21st, the Brent Board Office Meeting Room, 8791 Brent Drive. Open forum will begin at 6. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We are adjourned. We'll return to signing the minutes.
The only thing is if we up.